So yeah, OnePlus made a keyboard, well, in partnership with Keychron. Keychron made the keyboard, but I ain't mad because I've been using the Keychron K8 I customized for a couple years now. The 81 Pro is wireless, hot swappable switches, double shot PBT keycaps, south-facing per key RGB lighting, and uses double gaskets for acoustic control. Anyways, in the box, you'll get a user manual, 2-in-1 switch and keycap puller, some extra keycaps for the Windows layout, extra foam gasket strips, some extra screws for the case and stabilizers, an Allen key, and a red OnePlus themed cable with a USB-C to USB-A adapter. Now, I'll say this right out the gate. This is a really nice keyboard, but to temper your expectations just a tad, this is basically a OnePlus themed Keychron Q1 Pro with a few changes. Some I like, some I don't, but we'll go over everything anyways as if you didn't know about the Q1 Pro. So it's got an all aluminum case and it's heavy, like 4 pounds heavy. Now on the bottom we've got 4 rubber feet and the OnePlus Never Settle slogan engraved in the middle. It's height adjustable using that wireframe kickstand. But I mean, the base already has a fairly steep angle, so when I actually tried to use it, I felt like I was gonna break my wrist. But hey, you know, maybe some of you weirdos might like that angle. It also serves as another purpose though, which I personally think was sort of the main reason for adding it to differentiate itself from the Q1. It's a built-in display stand. So I guess the idea is when you're done using it, you unplug it, swing out the stand, and kind of sit it on its butt with the Never Settle slogan facing out, and then like just look at it, I guess, I don't know. The back's got the USB-C port, Mac and Windows selector switch, and the Bluetooth or wired connection switch made to look like the OnePlus alert slider from its phones. Now, unfortunately, like the Q1 Pro, there's no 2.4 gigahertz wireless option. So the RGB diffusion spread could have been a lot better if they'd used something like a light colored opaque PCB plate instead of the dark colored plate they went with that you'll see in a minute. But it's visible, and if anything, maybe a bit sharp. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we've got double shot PBT keycaps. This is the winter bonfire color theme, but there's also Summer Breeze, and Summer Breeze is actually a different keycap material altogether they're calling Marble Mallow. In fact, and I don't know if they did this by accident or not, but there was a single Marble Mallow keycap that came with the other spares, and I actually really like the feel of it. Like, you know that soft touch material laptop makers put on the outside casing? It's like slightly rubbery. That's what the Marble Mallow sort of feels like. So it's a real shame they sent out the boards with regular PPT keycaps to reviewers instead of their new concoction. I don't get it. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're a very generic looking keycap set that I'd be looking to swap out pretty fast anyways. So we've got the rotary dial in the top right that's set by default to system volume and mute when pushed. But of course you can reprogram it along with pretty much everything else with the GMK toolbox and the via browser based keyboard customization software, which is super convenient. Now what's neat though about the dial is that the fitment is standard, so there's like all sorts of aftermarket dials you can swap it out for if you wanted. Anyways, the Winter Bonfire model comes with, well, Winter Bonfire switches, of course. They're pre-lubed with a 57-gram spring, has 2.2 millimeters of pre-travel and 3.3 total. They're tactile switches, but like a soft tactile. Quite frankly, I'm not really a fan of tactile switches, but to be honest, I actually don't mind these. Hell, I might even like these a little bit, although I prefer heavier springs personally. Now, the Summer Breeze model has linear switches with a 45-gram spring. I would have preferred the linears, but 45 grams is way too light for me anyways. We've got PCB mounted stabilizers. They're lubed up too, but they've got a bit of a wiggle to them, so some further tuning is gonna be needed if you're OCD about that sort of thing like I am. Now, taking it apart, we've got the aluminum top plate, and underneath that there's the polycarbonate PCB plate along with some of those foam gasket strips along the edges. There's 3 cables we need to disconnect to pull out the PCB, and after we do that, taking a closer look at the board, you can see there's a foam gasket layer sandwiched between the PCB plate and board, as well as some more strips on the bottom side. And in case you were curious, the swappable switch sockets are from Keychron. Now underneath the PCB is another thin foam layer, and then this additional thin plastic layer just to kind of separate the board from the aluminum. And then underneath that, we've got the 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which Keychron claims should give you about 300 hours of usage with the backlighting turned off. Well, I never tested it with the backlighting off, but with it on, I got maybe 4 full days, like pounding away on it during the day and gaming with it at night. But that's at full brightness, so if you dim it down a little bit, you can expect longer, obviously. Now, something I was expecting to see was some chunks of silicone as part of that double gasket technique. quality. Well, we do get silicone gaskets, but instead of chunks, they're these super thin, tiny strips placed around the corners and edges at the top of the plate. Look, it still sounds and feels pretty good for a pre-built production board, just would have been nice if they'd used a full spread silicone gasket layer instead. But I'll let you hear how it sounds for yourself. So, it's a little high-pitched. I think some better quality switches could help a bit there. The stabilizers definitely need some modding, especially the spacebar. And I feel like some better keycaps would go a long way, but I guess it really depends on like your sound preferences, right? Anyways, $220 for the Winter Bonfire color or $240 for the Summer Breeze with the Marble Mallow keycaps. If you're a big fan of OnePlus and want to have some more OnePlus brand swag on top of what you've already got, I mean, it's a pretty fair choice. Or you could save $20+ if you go with the Q1 Pro, which has identical switch options plus more, just with different colors. Or you could get the bare bones kit that comes without switches or keycaps and put the extra money you save towards switches and keycaps that you choose. Anyways, I'll have a couple of product page links for you down in the description in case you wanted to pick one up for yourself. But I think that's going to do it for this one. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Cheers.